Hey guys, welcome to class today. And we are going to be talking about the history of graphic novels. So, our desired result is to learn what is the history of the graphic novel. By the end of this lesson, we'll be able to understand the history and evolution of comics and graphic novels. So, graphic novel, comic book, manga, huh? What's going on here? So, all of these terms are used to describe stories that are told through a sequence of images combined with text. So, a comic book is usually divided into issues with the story unfolding through multiple issues over an extended period of time. Graphic novels tend to be longer and more complex than comic books, with the whole story being told in one issue. Whereas manga is the Japanese form of a graphic novel. It's read from top to bottom and right to left, since that's how the Japanese language is read. The history of narratives told through pictures goes back a long way, though. So there's prehistoric, like prehistory, ancient Egyptians, hieroglyphics, the Middle Ages. You can see on walls and in books and on paper. So using that art and imagery has gone back a really, really long time. Political cartoons is when you use a caricature or exaggeration and symbolism to get your point across. So there's Join or Die by Benjamin Franklin in 1753, which is the first political cartoon. Cartoonist Thomas Nast created symbols for the Republican Party, which is the elephant, and the Democratic Party, which is the donkey, which are still the symbols actually to this day. So it's something to think about too. They can really be lasting. So comic strips are often humorous, hence their name, comic strip. So we have The Yellow Kid. This is from 1895. This is the first real comic strip and the first use of speech balloons. So when you're usually in cartoons, if you've ever read like the Sunday cartoons and stuff, the comic strips, they're speech balloons coming out of the mouth or like thought bubbles sometimes if the character's thinking. Now, comic books became popular during the 1930s with Flash Gordon, Dick Tracy, and Tarzan. And then there was a golden age of comics, and this was from 1938 to 1955. And this is where we see DC Comics, which was Superman, which was in 1938, Batman in 1939, Captain America, Wonder Woman, etc. So, still, all of those titles are very popular, constantly having movies and shows and series and cartoons made after the comic books. Superheroes were extremely popular during World War II, and they were used to support the war effort. So, more than 400 superheroes were created between 1940 and 1945. So, comics, the devil. So, The Seduction of the Innocent by Frederick Wertham in 1954 claimed that comic books caused juvenile delinquency. U.S. Congress began an inquiry into comic books, and the Comics Code Authority was established to limit what could and could not appear in print. Many sensational and horror comics were destroyed, and then comics saw a drop in readers. So they were really monitoring what the writers and the artists were doing and really limited their creativity and what they could say or not say. Then we see a comic book resurgence in the Silver Age. Now, this is from 1956 to 1970, and DC Comics update old superheroes. So we have The Flash, Green Lantern, the Justice League of America. Then Marvel Comics becomes the rival to DC. We have the Fantastic Four, Spider Man, Thor, the Hulk, Iron Man, and X Men. And then there's comics on TV. So there's Batman, the TV show in 1966. I wasn't born in 1966, but growing up, I would watch these reruns of actually that Batman show with my brothers. And those like thought bubbles and those like word bubbles that we were talking about, they would use those in the scenes. So when like Batman would like hit someone, it would say like pow or boom, and it would come across the screen in the same way that it would be showed in the comic book. So that's something that always really stood out to me. Then we have our Bronze Age. This is from 1971 to 1985. And this is characters begin to confront real issues: drug abuse, pollution, racism, and poverty. So the modern age is from 1986 to present. We have the birth of the anti hero, the rise of the graphic novel, comics in the movies and on TV. Comics go from nerd to cool. So if you see, um, comic books have really turned into mainstream by how much of a following they get, especially when they turn into TVs or movies. And there's people who maybe didn't ever read them that start to get interested in them because they become so cool. So, our desired result was, what is the history of the graphic novel? And at the end of this lesson, you should be able to understand the history and evolution of the comic and graphic novel.